You are listening to Get Out of Your Own Way, the podcast about self-sabotage, emotional intelligence, and overcoming our limiting beliefs to pursue the lives we were meant for. My name is Brianna Wiest, and my book on self-sabotage, The Mountain Is You, Transforming Self-Sabotage into Self-Mastery, will be out in June. Today we are here to talk about what your subconscious mind is trying to tell you through self-sabotage. So, as a quick debriefer, we've already covered that self-sabotage is when you have two coexisting but conflicting needs. One is conscious and one is unconscious. We understand that we need to identify the unconscious need, meet it in a healthy way, and then we can move forward with our lives. The negative emotions that we experience, especially as it pertains to self-sabotage, actually hold within them a profound wisdom. So we tend to close ourselves off to anything that's heavy or dark or doesn't feel good. We try to avoid it, try to avoid anything that triggers it. We don't ever really move through it. And it kind of gets literally physically stuck in our bodies. Unprocessed emotions get physically stuck in our bodies. This is because the part of the brain where emotions originate is next to something called a motor cortex, which means that as soon as we start to feel something, our body starts creating a physical reaction. If we don't process through the entire experience, it literally gets stuck. On a cellular level, we store unprocessed emotions. So the reason that we store most the negative ones is because we get scared. We start to feel this discomfort, and we have a story that we tell ourselves in our mind about what it is and why we shouldn't be feeling this way. Maybe when we were young, we got in trouble every time that we cried or expressed negativity or dissatisfaction. So now we associate that feeling kind of with a lack of acceptance or safety. Whatever it is, we close off to the negative emotions when they are actually our most profound sources of growth. And our subconscious mind is trying to communicate with us through those emotions. So anger is a great one. Anger means a few things. One, it means your boundaries have been crossed. Anger means your boundaries have been crossed, and often it's a boundary that you didn't know existed. You didn't realize it was there until someone crossed it, and then you blew up because you're perceiving them as kind of attacking you. And it's interesting because it might not be in a really literal physical sense. It could be someone makes a really rude comment to you that is something you're kind of sensitive about. They crossed a boundary in your comfort in saying something that it wasn't their place to say. That feels like an attack, so you retaliate. Anger is also a way that we enforce our perception of justice. So we see something in the world and in our lives that we know is wrong. And anger is our way that we actually mobilize ourselves to try to right it. So often in our lives, at the point at which we feel the most angry is actually the tipping point for transformation, because anger is trying to actually drum up energy within us to create change. Anger means our boundaries are crossed. I have identified something that is unjust, and we know that we need to do something about it. But how often do we do anything about it other than rage, complain to our friends, and just try to shut it down and ignore it? The problem perpetuates. Jealousy. Jealousy is one of my favorite negative emotions because I think it's one of the most healing emotions once you know what to do with it. So jealousy is a great one because people don't realize they're jealous. All they know is that they dislike this person without really having a reason to. So it's this attractive, successful, amazing person that they hate. And everything they do is annoying, and you try to humanize them in any way you can. They must be terrible at their relationship. They are, did whatever to get that job. They don't deserve it. Whatever story you're telling yourself about them. Now, what's amazing about jealousy is, do you know how many people in the world have so much more than you? Like a lot. Do you know how many people have an incredible amount of wealth. They're so attractive. They have amazing relationships. Think of any like movie star, anyone like that. There are a lot of people in the world that you should be jealous of. Look how much they have. But you're not. The person that you are the most jealous of is the person who is 1 or 2 steps up from where you are right now. So you don't look at the magazine in the grocery store and think like, ugh, like I'm so jealous of, I don't know, Jennifer Aniston, whatever. You look at the friend in your circle who is, in the industry that you want to be in, but just doing a little better than you and looks most similar to you, but just a little better, and is in a relationship like you are, but it just seems a little happier. What you're identifying is what you actually want. So it's not that you want that job or that relationship or to look like that person. You actually want to give yourself permission to pursue the career you want on the terms you want. You want permission to look the way that you truly want to look. You want permission to pursue love. And when you see someone else pursuing what you are holding yourself back from, it is extremely triggering. But the problem is not that you hate this person. The problem is not that you don't want them to be happy. Of course you want them to be happy. If you really stop and think about it, you want them to be happy in their relationship. You're happy for them doing well. The honest truth is you're not happy with you. You are not happy with what you're allowing yourself to do in your own life. So anytime you feel jealousy, you can stop and say, what is this telling me about what I really want to pursue? Another one is annoyance. So when we dislike someone or we don't get along with them, we find that we just, we don't see them, we don't think about them, we don't hang out with them. Our energies don't click and we don't really spend time with them. There's a lot of people like that in the world. You're just not compatible. You're just not friends. But then there's a difference between, we just don't get along, we're not friends, and I really can't stand this person. And even though I really say I can't stand them, they seem to keep orbiting around me. It's like I'm pulling them in or I keep thinking about them. And the reason is because there is something in their behavior that's mirroring your own. What you most dislike about other people is deep down something that you also do. So usually when we talk about this, people say, well, when I see on TV someone is a murderer, like, does that mean I'm a murderer? People love to jump to the most extreme example that they can think of. Totally missing the point, by the way. No, of course it does not mean you are a murderer, but here's the thing. When you watch TV and you see something like that happening that's really extreme, you feel sad, maybe you feel angry, that's not right, you want things to change. But does it haunt you on a day-to-day basis? Can you just not ever get it out of your head? Does it drive you absolutely crazy? Probably not. You have a normal and healthy and correct reaction to seeing something negative in the world, but you're not obsessed with it. And the people who are really triggering you to your unconscious behavior, you become obsessed with them. You obsessively dislike them. And it's because they're really showing you something within yourself. So all of these negative emotions are actually showing us an incredible wisdom. They're showing us something about what we want, what we need, and who we are. And instead of being afraid of them, if we could just pause for a moment. Wow, I'm in a lot of pain right now. I feel really uncomfortable right now. What is this discomfort trying to show me about what needs to change about my life or about myself? All self-sabotage is showing you a need. And when you look into what the self-sabotaging behavior is, you're actually showing yourself exactly what you want. So let's say you can't let go of an old relationship. Sound familiar to anyone? I'm sure, because it happens to everyone. You cannot let go of an old relationship. It was the best you ever had. You'll never find anyone else. The whole song and dance. You spend your whole life just hung up on this person, can't let them go. It's a form of self-sabotage. You're not mourning the loss of a person. You are mourning the loss of one way that you imagined your future would be. You're not trying to let go of the past. You're scared of the future. Because here's the honest truth. Good relationships don't end. Take a breath, and I want you to hear that again and think about that again. Good relationships don't end. Good relationships can be challenging. They are challenging. They can be hard. They can bring up some deep emotions. You can go through really tough times with the people you love, for sure. But a good relationship where two people are committed and know they are right for each other, that wouldn't have ended in the first place. There was a reason that relationship ended. What was that reason? Because it was a big enough reason that you knew, this isn't right for me. Now you haven't solved the other part of that equation, which is, well, what would be right for me? You're panicking about where your life is going to go next. And what a lot of people do is they attach to it in a way that's like, well, I thought I was going to live here with this person. I thought I was going to have this kind of family with this person. This is your whole vision for your life that you've lost. And to heal this really, it's not that you have to go back and try to force yourself to let go of this person. Stop trying to let go altogether. Just get it out of your head. All you need to start doing is building your new life, starting today and moving forward. Wipe the slate clean. What kind of work do you want to be doing? Where do you want to be living? Who do you want to be? You start really investing in yourself. You start building. Get out of the ruins. Get out of the ruins of what's gone and start building the new city. You start building that up and you will find one day, you'll be like, wow, I went the whole day without thinking about this person. Then it'll be in a week. Wow, I went like a week without thinking about them. And then eventually you'll stop thinking about it altogether because something new has replaced it. You've built a new future, and guess what you're going to find in that future when you're on the path that you're supposed to be on, the person you're supposed to share it with. But you're never going to find that if you're just stuck and waiting on someone else to cue what the next part of your life is supposed to be. So you think that you're processing this pain, and maybe you are for a period of time. But really, by holding on to that relationship, you're sabotaging your chances of finding a new one because you're not investing into what the next step of your life is supposed to be. So another great one is when we don't take care of ourselves physically. Now, I don't know about any of you, but there was a time in my life when I would say walking too far would like tire me. Like I really was not taking care of myself at all. I pretty much just ate whatever kind of comforted me. I didn't think about nutrition. I didn't think about, what my body needed. I didn't think about any of that. I would say there was a time when I didn't care enough about myself to put myself together well, or just in a way that I felt like proud of each day, or in a way that felt like authentically myself. And I see this a lot, that people struggle with feeling that they're maybe eating poorly or not exercising enough. And the reason why this usually happens is because you are doing too much. You are trying way too hard to overtly be healthy or change, or you have some kind of unconscious motive for it that you don't realize, which is like, well, I just want to get in shape. I don't really actually care about like exercising to keep myself healthy. So you have this unconscious motive that's driving you to go into like, be obsessive about it and compulsive about it. And then you can't actually come to a place of like authentic nourishment and health. And so when you are completely overexerted and your bandwidth for your will is so depleted throughout the day, okay, when you get to the end, like there's no chance you're gonna like choose a healthy meal over just something that's like quick, easy, cheap, makes you feel better in the moment. There's no way. You have to set up this life for yourself where you make these subtle shifts slowly and from a place of self-respect, not a place of self-hate. It will never work out. Whatever you plant the seed with is how the tree will grow. You plant the seed with self-hate, you are only going to get a forest of self-hate. You plant a small seed with self-love, and your whole life is going to start to blossom. So, another one, you are not doing the work that would move your career forward. Oh, if I could tell you, I feel like this is just what everyone talks about all the time, isn't it? Just, well, I know I should be working on this project, or I know that there's an opportunity here for me to maybe work with this person and do this. I know I should release the podcast, do this, get something on Instagram, whatever it is. You already know what the next steps are to move your career and your life forward, and you just keep not doing it. You're procrastinating, you try and it's not good enough, and you give up, you can't force yourself to do it. I hear and see this about writing all of the time. Talented people too. I really want to write a book. I want to write articles. I want to do whatever. And then they just don't do it. They can't bring themselves to do it. It's like this pain and suffering to get them to do it. There is only one answer here, and no one wants to hear it, but you're going to hear it. It's not the work you're supposed to be doing. Point blank, period, done. Now, doesn't mean you can't be a writer or won't be successful. All it means is that whatever project you're trying to do is you need to take a step back and rethink it. Whatever opportunity you think you want to take, you need to take a step back and you need to rethink it. I don't believe in writer's block. It's not real. It only happens when you are trying to say something, but you don't know what you're trying to say. Like you don't know the point. You don't know your thesis. You go in to write an article and you're like, well, I don't even know what I'm trying to even communicate here. So you don't know what you're trying to say. Or you're trying to say it in a way that's way too far removed from how you naturally speak and think. If you sat down at your laptop and you knew what you wanted to say, I knew I sat down today and said, I'm going to tell you something about self-sabotage. And I'm speaking to you or writing to you in the way that kind of comes naturally to me, believe me, that article will be done pretty quickly. But what people try to do is they want to work on a project that makes them feel really validated or like a real serious writer, but they don't care about it, so it never gets done. Or they try to write it in a way that would make them seem like really intelligent or smarter than they are or really well respected. And again, it just becomes an obstacle because they can't sustain it. Every time in my career and in my life that I have felt strong resistance toward completing a project or working on something, it's always because it was a weak idea. You know, the book that's coming out in June, I wrote it 4 or 5 times. And each time, each approach I was taking, it wasn't right. It wasn't strong. It wasn't communicating my idea in the clearest, best possible way. It wasn't working. Now, I knew that was the book I was supposed to write, and I knew I was supposed to write it. So I knew that, right? And that's how a lot of people are. It's like, well, I know I'm supposed to be doing this, or I really want to be writing, and you feel that, but the path that you're trying to take there is just a dead end. And you don't think to step back from it and be like, oh, this discomfort, this is not a sign of me being incompetent. It doesn't mean I'll never be successful. It just means that the way that I'm trying to go about this isn't right for me. Discomfort. I could do an entire podcast series about discomfort. I love discomfort so much. Discomfort is, I would say, probably the most consistent feeling in self-sabotage, probably the most consistent negative feeling that you experience on a day-to-day basis, period, I would imagine. Discomfort has been, I'll speak for myself, my truest friend and the greatest blessing of my entire life. Every time in my life I was uncomfortable, it was because there was something deep, deep down within me, a voice that I couldn't even put thoughts to, something deep inside telling me, you are better than this, you are capable of more than this, it's time to rise up, it's time to make change. Every single time. Every single time when I was really consistently uncomfortable, it was, you are better than this, and you can do better than this. This isn't you. This isn't you. And it would be the worst when I knew I was behaving in a way that was not my best self. I was not coming from a good place. I was not being a woman of character, I would say, that I think we all try to be. And I looked at my behaviors and I would say, you know what, this discomfort is telling me I can do better than this. Another great one is, you feel unhappy even though everything is good, or it should be good. When you have to get to a point where you have to look around your life and be like, I should be so happy. I have this, and I have this, and I have this, and I have all of this. So much, anyone would be overjoyed, and yet you still feel empty inside. It's because you are still relying on something outside of you to bring you that sense of peace and ease and contentment, which can only be brought through training and disciplining your mind. Whether you have a little or whether you have a lot, if you are not cultivating a mindset of gratitude, of appreciation and acceptance for the day, of empowerment and of forward thinking and moving, it doesn't matter. You could have everything in the world, you could have absolutely nothing. The way that you experience every day of your life is work, and it is work that you do. It starts right here and right now, no matter how much or how little you have. And then when you have a lot, you'll be able to appreciate it. You will feel overjoyed because you have so much and you're so incredibly blessed. But I'll tell you that when you start really doing this inner work, really start cultivating a practice every day to see the good in every day, to see the opportunity in every day. How can I move my life forward today? What paths are open to me? What connections are appearing for me? you'll realize that even when you're at your lowest, even when you think you don't have anything, you have so much. You have so much. You have more than you think you do. You are doing better than you think you are. But that empty feeling is showing you're having an issue of misperception. So we spoke about this a little bit in the first podcast, but another really, really common one is that you're getting trapped in cycles of worrying. I would say this is probably one of the most common self-sabotaging behaviors. You're showing up for your life and then you're worrying about it. You're worrying, what if this relationship doesn't work out? What if they're judging me? What is this person thinking about me? What are they thinking of my work? What if I lose my job? Just worry, 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 worry. And we've spoken about it before, but we're going to go more into it now, which is that you're using worry as self-protection. You think that you can beat fear to the finish line. You think that you can worry your way out of any potentially negative thing ever happening. And what you don't realize is that you're worrying your way into it. So the worst possible thing that you can do to get out of worry is to try to force yourself to stop worrying. Letting go of it feels like you're letting go of the thing that's keeping you safe. It's like you're ripping off a Band-Aid with no way to seal the wound, and then you're just bleeding out. So just trying to force yourself to stop worrying is going to take you from a place where you feel uncomfortable and nervous to full panic. And actually what's creating the spiral that you can't get out of is trying to force your way out of it. You're literally going to come back with an even stronger, more fearful perspective than ever before. You are worrying as a means of trying to keep your eye on any potential negative thing that could possibly happen in your life, thinking that would help you take steps maybe to protect yourself from or to avoid it. You are wrong. You are wrong. It is creating negative outcomes in your life. It is exaggerating negative outcomes in your life. It is taking a neutral playing field and creating threats on it. The ratio of things in your life you do control to the ratio of things that you do not is extraordinary and not in the way that you think. Most people like to live believing that they don't control anything in their life. And you hear that all the time. Well, you really can't control anything. And there are a few things that we can control, mostly death and other people. But the majority of what affects our day-to-day life, the vast majority of it, is directly and completely 100% in our control. And if it isn't, it is at the bare minimum available for us to influence. Almost everything that matters to you is a matter of your own control. And so instead of focusing on the majority of things day to day that we actually can take control of, we sit around worrying about one-off circumstances that probably won't ever happen. We literally completely drain ourselves of any power that we had to make change. I think it's because, one, we don't realize we can make change. And two, I think we get afraid of making change. We don't want to see how powerful we are. We don't want to accept that we have control. If we have to accept that we have control, or at least influence, or a role to play, minimum, in our relationships and how we feel and how we're showing up and our ambition and what we're reaching for in life, then we have to accept full responsibility for where we are right here and now.